Happy 4th of July, folks. This is Glenamonian back with another Glenamonian podcast, and today I want to touch on a subject that's actually pretty near and dear to myself, maybe not so much dear, and that's work-related stress. Um, Now, like many of you, I work a 9 to 5 job, or more like 8 to 4:30. And jobs can be probably the most soul-crushing thing you can deal with on a regular basis. And it's sometimes it's not just your job that's stressful. Sometimes you might have coworkers, you might have management that you just can't. They're intolerable at times, and and I feel you. I feel you. I got to deal with this stuff almost daily. And I mean, they say that stress is sometimes all in the mind. And, yeah, there's times of it that's true because you have to learn how to cope with stress. However, that doesn't mean it's easy. It's not like a switch that you could turn on and off at will. Sometimes over time, stress can have long lasting effects, physical effects, mental effects, emotional effects. There are times where I would start getting panic attacks or anxiety issues, and it's sometimes it's not always big things. It's a bunch of little stuff that adds together over time, and it stress. It's think of stress like something that just accumulates, and then at some point, you can get treatment for it. It'll cost you an arm and a leg, or you just have to learn how to cope. Coping is probably the best way you can deal with right now if you can't afford to see a psychologist or something. So, or you don't even need a psychologist. Maybe you need a good friend to talk to or family member to talk to. And it's hard because sometimes you don't. Some people don't want to be burdened with all the stuff you want to talk about. Because the conversation will get one sided. I've actually had friends, people I considered friends, pretty much brush me off after a little bit. So you gotta keep that in check. I can give you an example of a good way to cope with work related stress is if you work in an environment where you can get some alone time. I would use that alone time to just take a walk, clear your head. Um, stay outdoors. Sometimes you'd be surprised. A lack of sunlight can actually contribute to some health issues. Sometimes it can contribute to stress, and you never really know it because like this is the culture where we spend a lot of our times indoors. I think there was a study that just came out that we spent maybe a small fraction of our time outdoors doing anything, doing any activity. I mean, unless you work at a job that works outdoors constantly, like you're in an office environment, and that's kind of all you know. And especially if you have a busy time at home, you have to make dinner or you got to deal with finances. You're always glued to a computer, or you're glued in the kitchen, or you're glued dealing with kids and picking them up, and you don't get to enjoy going out in nature. Nature is actually really, really calming, especially you're under a lot of stress, under a lot of pressure. But sometimes just having a walk in a park with a lot of trees, it can be therapeutic. Although I live out in the desert, so we don't have a lot of trees. Sometimes listening to really soothing music. Apparently, I've started learning things called healing frequencies. Apparently, if you just kind of play that in the background as background noise for a while, people might, look at you funny, and that's just how people are. Um, you actually learn to, I don't know, it helps calm me down a bit. Um, yeah, music's always good. Try to avoid music that pumps you up because that might actually make the stress worse. You want to calm down. You want your stress levels to go down. You don't want them to go up. Um, yeah, so definitely nice, calming, soothing music. Um, Getting some alone time is really good, especially if you're around people that give you stress. Because like at work, you're always going to have coworkers or management or customers or people who just go out of their. Sometimes they go out of their way to make your life a living hell. Sometimes they don't do it intentionally. I have actually known people who do go out of their way to make your life a living hell. Um, and it's just unfortunate. If you can find a way to get away from all that, it'll help you immensely. Another thing I want to touch in on is when it comes to dealing with stress, our brain sucks because for a lot of times we like to keep in the horrible memories and we like to push out the good memories, especially those who grew up with turbulent childhoods, or your life was just constant strife, constant misery, constant depression. And so your brain wants to keep a memory of all that stuff. And so you might be having a good day, and all of a sudden you're hit with a panic attack. You're hit with some gloomy feeling, like your body wants to just collapse all at once. You want to break down and cry, and it sucks. Um, and this is why I always say, if you can try to get some alone time, try to pull away. And I know some jobs, they do allow you to pull away. I know it might be hard for some professions, because I don't understand a doctor. Like, if you start having a panic attack while doing surgery or something, I understand, because doctors have it really, really rough. And I'm oh my gosh, I learned about how much debt doctors go into debt, and then you have to get like malpractice insurance, and you're always worried because some jerk, I mean, and doctors aren't perfect, but there's always going to be that one jerk who's just looking to get a lawsuit. He's probably some poor redneck trailer trash guy, and he's itching to get that lawsuit going. And there's of course lawyers that are eager to do it, and you could lose your license. I mean, being a doctor's, you have no idea how being stressful doctor's life can be. And it's not just doctors. I mean, you're an executive with multi-million-dollar decisions on the table, and if that falls through, you're out $1 million and maybe out of a job or get a demotion. And granted, I've never been demoted at work, but I can't imagine a feeling it's that feeling of failure that hangs over your head. I can't even imagine having to deal with that on a regular basis, or just like, even if you've moved on from that job and the next job, you're always worrying. And it feels like American culture. Excuse me. We're always worrying about our performance. We get that performance anxiety, and it it sucks because you want to do the best of your ability, but sometimes the work culture constantly pushes you to do better, to do more. That you're supposed to. They expect so much out of you, and you're only one person. And it feels like a lot of times that the world just doesn't care. It just wants it feels like sometimes your job just wants to take as much as they can out of you and pay you only so much. And heaven help you if you want to take time away. There are jobs out there who either you can't take time away or it's hard to take time away. And even though by law you're supposed to use your vacation time, a lot of companies set up to the way to where it's almost impossible, because when you come back, that workload not only is there waiting for you, you may not have anyone to cover for you, so that workload can double or even triple. And that's another thing that can pile on your mind, and I can't even fathom that. My job's kind of like that too when I think about it. Excuse me, I'm having a bit of an indigestion problem here. Sorry, I apologize. And I fortunately can't seem to edit that out. Another way to deal with work-related stress, and of course I just mentioned this, try to take some time off if you can. Honestly, you owe it to yourself to take some time out for yourself. Hopefully, if you have family that can respect your time, because sometimes you want to, and it's hard. I can imagine having a job and having a family, and you want to love your family, but at the same time, you need time away. You need time away, especially. But this is for work, so I'm not an expert on family stuff, but work, you gotta find some time away. But of course, if that's hard to do, you can always find ways to cope with it during the day to day. But you cannot be afraid. You cannot be afraid to approach your supervisor and say, "Hey, look, I need to take a week off." And I know some supervisors might argue with you over that. They say, "Well, you can't take this week off because blah blah blah." And it's like, well, and so what if there's a death in family? What if you have medical issues to take care of? And oh God, it infuriates me that there are people, especially employers, that do this to their workers, and they wonder why people want to quit. They wonder why people want to leave their current employer and just move on, because life's not worth that stress. It really isn't. Um, Man, I can't imagine, but I'm giving you some ideas on how to cope with it. Another good way, and I've learned this, how to deal with stress, is exercise. Yeah, we're Americans. We're used to eating a certain way. We're used to sitting on our butts all the time. But dude, sometimes just taking a walk, sometimes even a jog, it could do wonders for your body. Um, and and it doesn't have to be extensive. Just do 5 to 10 minutes, a light jog. Walk in the mornings if you can. And I know it's difficult because the commute culture, especially in larger cities where you live, you're going to live like a few miles away from your job because that's just how it is. It's hard. I mean, there are people who stress going to the gym, lift some weights. If you can get some small weights at home, heck, what I used to do, I used to go on YouTube and I used to tune into like Body Project or just type in little light cardio and do 10, 15 minutes of that. You owe it to yourself to be in the best shape of your life if you can. Especially if you're overweight. Stress and weight can wreak havoc on your body over time. You wanna be able to just focus on the weight loss, not weight loss, focus on the exercise. Um, Another hard thing that you might struggle with is I would find a way to what was I going to talk about here? I would find a way to just relax, listen to some music. Excuse me one second here. Listen to some easygoing music. Just chill. Just relax. Um, Meditate. Meditate's a good one. Um, find a place to sit. Cushy place. Tune in to nature. Try to close your mind off. And I know it's hard because you got a lot of things going on. Just try to close your mind off, and you don't have to like sit Indian style. Anyway, just sit for 10 minutes by yourself outside, preferably outside, and just let the calming, just let your body calm down. I know your brain sometimes it's hard to get it to shut off, but that's what the background noise is for. That's why people suggest to go out to nature, let the chirping of the birds and the crickets and the frogs. If you got frogs, let that stuff just get into your brain and not think about work. Especially when if you're off on weekends or on your days off, leave work at work. Don't bring it home. Don't worry about work. And I know in your position where you kind of have no choice, but do yourself a favor. Leave work at work. Don't even think about it. Um, this is actually going to be kind of a short video because I got to get ready for whatever it is I was gonna. Oh yeah, I was gonna make dinner. Yeah, I was gonna make dinner. See, I know this is a very unrehearsed video, and I apologize, but this is kind of how I roll. That whole YouTube algorithm. Sometimes you gotta phone it in. I'm doing this channel for lots of reasons, but it's therapeutic for me because it gives me a chance to talk and just to speak. Because sometimes I got nobody to speak to except for the people who are willing to listen. It's either that or having people think I'm talking to myself, and that's probably not something I want to do. All right, I'm going to end this video here. I don't know what I'm going to do with my next video, but I'll probably think of something, and I will see you soon. Take care.